So, let's talk about one of the most common questions I see in the Bitcoin community. How much Bitcoin do you really need? It's a question that sounds simple, but the truth is, it depends. It depends on your financial goals, your risk tolerance, and your time horizon. But in this video, I want to give you a framework that will actually help you think about a number that makes sense for you. So why does this question even matter? When people first get into Bitcoin, they usually think in whole coins. A lot of beginners ask, is one Bitcoin enough? Do I need 10? What if I can't afford even one? Am I too late? But the reality is, Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million units, called Satoshis. So even owning zero point 0.1 Bitcoin or 0.01 puts you ahead of the vast majority of people worldwide. Think about it this way. There are only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. That's it. If you divide that among the world's population of 8 billion people, the math works out to 0.0026 Bitcoin per person. That's less than 3 million Satoshis. So if you own more than 0.0026 Bitcoin, you already have more than the average theoretical share of Bitcoin on Earth. That perspective alone shows you that you don't need to be a whale to matter. Now let's get practical. How much Bitcoin you need depends on your life goals. For example, if your goal is to retire early, then you need to calculate how much passive income or capital you'll need in the future. A common rule in personal finance is the 4% rule. It says that if you have an investment portfolio that's large enough, you can safely withdraw 4% of it each year and it should last you for decades. So let's say you want $40,000 a year in retirement. That means you'd need a portfolio worth about $1 million. Now the big question becomes, how much Bitcoin could realistically make up that million? If Bitcoin reaches 500k one day, then 2 Bitcoin alone could be your ticket to financial independence. If it goes to $1 million, then just 1 Bitcoin might be enough. The key is, there is no universal number. The right amount depends on your own income goals and your assumptions about Bitcoin's future. Here's another way to think about it. Instead of asking how much you need, ask how much you can reasonably accumulate before Bitcoin adoption matures. Let's do some math again. Imagine that out of the 21 million coins, maybe 3 or 4 million are lost forever due to forgotten wallets and old hard drives. That leaves around 17 million coins in circulation. Now imagine that 1% of the world population eventually holds Bitcoin. That's about 80 million people. If the coins were spread evenly, each person would own about 0.2 Bitcoin. That means even owning 0.1 Bitcoin would put you in the top half of Bitcoin holders in that scenario. And if Bitcoin adoption goes mainstream, say 10% of the world uses it, that bar gets even lower. So instead of aiming for some magic number, realize that even fractions of a Bitcoin can make a massive difference in the long run. Let's ground this with the real world examples. Beginner saver. Maybe you're young, working your first job, and you can only buy $100 of Bitcoin per month. Over 5 years, that could add up to around 0.05 to 0.1 Bitcoin, depending on the price. Is that enough? Well, maybe not to retire, but it is enough to meaningfully benefit if Bitcoin goes mainstream. The middle class investor. Let's say you are able to accumulate one full Bitcoin over time. That's already a life-changing amount if Bitcoin hits multiple 6 figures. The wealth builder. If you're aiming for financial freedom purely from Bitcoin, then 3 to 10 Bitcoin is a solid target, depending on your lifestyle expectations and Bitcoin's eventual valuation. Again, the right answer depends on your income goals and your risk appetite. And now, here's something important. A lot of people obsess over how much is enough because they're afraid of missing out. But the truth is, there is no perfect number. Even if you own just 0.01 Bitcoin, you are already in a rare category of people worldwide, and more importantly, it can give you exposure to the upside without risking your entire financial future. That's why I personally think it's healthier to ask, how much Bitcoin can I own while still being comfortable? How much can I buy without putting myself in financial stress? If you chase some arbitrary goal, like I need 10 Bitcoin or I'll fail, you risk making emotional mistakes like buying at the top with leverage or panic selling at the bottom. Another point that ties into this, you don't want Bitcoin to be your only plan. Even if you believe in it 100%, it's smart to also have cash savings, some exposure to traditional investments, and maybe even income generating assets like real estate or stocks. Because here's the reality, Bitcoin could go to $1 million or it could stagnate for decades. The best investors prepare for both outcomes. So when you're thinking about how much Bitcoin you need, don't think of it in isolation. Think of it as a piece of your overall wealth strategy. Here's a simple way to approach the question. 1. Security allocation. Own enough Bitcoin that if it succeeds, it changes your life. For most people, that might be between 0.1 and 1 Bitcoin. Number 2. Freedom allocation. If you want Bitcoin to potentially fund early retirement, then aim for 2 to 10 Bitcoin, depending on your lifestyle goals. And number 3. Generational wealth allocation. If you're aiming to pass Bitcoin onto your kids or build long-term wealth, then anything above 10 Bitcoin puts you in a very rare territory. So how much Bitcoin do you really need? There isn't one answer. For some people, 0.1 Bitcoin is enough. For others, 1 Bitcoin is life-changing. For high earners with ambitious retirement plans, maybe the number is closer to 5 or 10. The most important thing is, start stacking what you can consistently without overextending yourself. Don't chase someone else's number. Define your own number based on your goals, your risk tolerance, and your vision for the future. At the end of the day, even a small stack puts you in a unique position in history.